And good day everyone, with some technical challenges early on. Thank you for joining our webinar. Today's topic, child maintenance issues and advice. We had a webinar yesterday, a video that we played. It was quite well commented upon. So if you have any questions today and you are live, we are doing live quick Q&A as well. So with me today is Nicole Lawrence, the attorney next to me. How are you, Nicole?
Good day, people. I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, Nicole was busy for a few minutes before this, so we've been struggling, but anyway, we are now live. Okay, child maintenance issues and advice. Generally, how it works is you have a child, there's another parent, the other parent is not paying child maintenance or is not paying adequate child maintenance, and now you'd like to claim child maintenance from the other parent. So the quick example is mom and dad, they have a child, mom says dad is paying too little maintenance. She comes to us as a lawyer. Lawyers, how can I get more child maintenance? Nicole, any comment on that?
Or any child maintenance for that matter.
Any child maintenance. So a child is someone under 18 years old, so it's from 0 to 17 years old. It is still possible to to claim maintenance if you are 18 and above, but today's topic we will not be touching upon that. That's for maintenance for an adult. Nicole, my experience on child maintenance, I got a lot of experience from the start when I started practicing law. But it seems to me the one topic that you'll always be busy with, you'll always have a child maintenance file. I don't know if you have the same issue.
Yes, I do. I have many in family law.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that the same scenario which you had with a client 5 or 10 years ago, you'll always experience with a new client, the same issues. But it's good. I believe that parents should pay child maintenance. It's an obligation. Nicole, a client comes to you and she says, or he says, I would like to claim maintenance from the other parent. Where do we start?
Well, we start, I suppose, with paternity, maybe. A lot of fathers generally contest paternity so that they don't need to pay for the child. But other than that, you need to bring a maintenance application to get a maintenance order to enforce the order so that the other party or parent can pay the maintenance.
Yes. So if you are disputing paternity at the start, okay, let's say the mother comes to you and says, I would like to claim maintenance from the father, you start the procedure, and the father is saying, look, I'm not the father. What happens generally under those circumstances?
Well, generally they are sent for a paternity test and we wait for the test results to come back. If any party refuses for the paternity test to take place, then in the Children's Act there is presumptions, if I can call it that, about certain facts that need to be met so that it can be presumed that the father is the biological father of the child in question.
Yeah, on an interesting point over there, I know there's one presumption that if the mother and the father are married, they automatically presume that the child born from that mother is the husband is the father of the child. Okay, so what can I claim maintenance for? I mean, I don't have hair, so I wouldn't claim maintenance for haircuts, but what can a person claim maintenance for your child?
So you would, under the Maintenance Act, basically, if I simplify it, you would pay for your child's necessary maintenance needs. That basically covers a roof over his or her head, food, educational costs, medical costs, and then any other costs that they are accustomed to. That obviously depends on their standard of living. That's basically the main ones you would claim for. When it comes to luxury expenses for your child that he or she is accustomed to, it really depends on your standard of living that the children are used to, and also whether parties can even afford those luxury expenses for the children.
Okay, so I come to you, you give me some assistance, you advise me, and we're off to the maintenance court. Is that what we're talking about?
Basically, yes. However, before we jump to the maintenance court, we will always try to do settlement negotiations beforehand so that if you guys do settle on a maintenance amount or maintenance terms, then we can just go to the court and do an order by agreement, which is simpler, cheaper, quicker, basically.
Yeah, and Nicole, at the same time, if you are going to make use of legal representation, let's say both parties want to fight, the mother or the father want to fight. At the end of the day, they're spending more money on lawyers' fees as opposed to using it for the child's needs.
Yes, exactly. So, in the beginning, when we consult with a client, we first find the facts out because maybe it's not, I mean, we can't always believe everything our client says. There's obviously disputing parties. So, we try to settle the matter first, although ultimately you do need a court order to enforce it.
Yes. And if the parties settle it, wonderful, they can just continue their lives. So, Nicole, moving forward, I mean, the child is now maybe 2 years old, and the maintenance amount is, let's say, for example, for around 1,000 rand. A year later, the child goes to daycare, and a few years later, the child goes to creche. Does the maintenance increase, or what happens there?
So, if you have existing maintenance order, it should have a annual increase at least, whether it's CPI or whether it's, some people say, a default 10%. There should be an increase clause in your maintenance order. However, if there is not one, you can always, or if your expenses are much more for the child than the increase allows, then you can always go to court and apply for an increase in the maintenance order amount.
Yes, and I think that's a good idea because otherwise you have to come to court every year or every time there's a change in circumstances. So get an increase 10% CPI, and that should be good to go until the child turns 18 or something major occurs.
Yes.
We have a maintenance application form that you use when you approach a maintenance court. I'll be putting it on the screen quickly. Is that it? Okay. Is this? Yes. And you can obtain it from the government website. You can Google the maintenance application form, Form A. And the form itself is quite simplistic, so we're not dealing too much detail with this. But to start the maintenance process, you go to the maintenance court, you can either download the form or get a form from them. You provide your details, the details of the other party, could either be the mother or the father, depending who is claiming maintenance. And then you have to provide a bit of further information, for example, what your income is, what the expenses for you and the child is. Quite a lot of information should be provided. So your assets, your income, and your expenditure. So remember, your expenditure has to be divided into 12. So if you have school fees, you can't say my school fees every month is, for argument's sake, whatever it is times 12. Let's say, for example, your school fees is 1,000 for the year. You have to divide the 1,000 by 12. Say, for example, TV license and so on. So the form gets completed. It is in affidavit format, and you have to go to the police station to have it commissioned, and that form will obviously be submitted. Nicole, any comments about your problems you have in the past with people filling these forms but incorrectly, or has there been issues regarding these forms?
So yes, this form is also available at the court. They will give it out to you in the waiting room, basically. However, the common issue that we have is people don't know how to fill out the income and expenses schedule. They don't base it on a monthly amount. Sometimes they put the yearly amount for school fees, and it's a monthly schedule. Or if they have more than one child, or they have maybe 3 adults in the household, which could be a sister or a cousin or a grandma or grandfather, they don't include those people to a portion, which is basically you are allocating a certain amount of the household expenses. For example, maybe it's rates, your electricity and water. You need to get an amount to allocate to each child that you are claiming maintenance for, and people don't know how to do that most oftentimes, and we tend to help them with how to do that. There is a recommended ratio, which is basically 2 parts to every adult, 1 part to every minor child, and that's, for example, you would divide it in that way based on how many people are in the household that consume, for example, your water and electricity.
And in my experience, the most difficult amount to work out is the accommodation. It's so difficult because the mother's bond, for argument's sake, let's say so it's 10,000, but there's 4 people living in the house, and the child is most probably 2 months old. Then how do you work out the child's portion? Alternatively, the child could be maybe 17 years old, and the child uses now the backyard, uses, for example, the swimming pool, whatever the case may be. So those are difficult ones to work out. Things like school fees, medical expenditure, extramural, those are simple things to work out because those are, expenses that are invoiced or billed accordingly. Any other amounts which you find difficult to work out, Nicole?
Well, I initially used the recommended ratio first, and then depending on the facts, for example, you mentioned now older child. sometimes the older child does consume like an adult or even more sometimes. So then we wouldn't use the ratio, the recommended ratio, to work out his or her percent of the living expenses for food or for water and electricity.
Yes.
Then we'll consider that older child consumes just like an adult. But basically there's no set rule on how to apportion different living expenses to a child. It depends on each fact. I mean, you could have a special needs child that has special dietary requirements, and therefore it's easier to work out what that child's food requirements is than apportioning it with everyone else's food.
Yeah, and at the same time, as you understand, there's no legal obligation upon the other parent to maintain the other parent. So, for example, if the father is taking the mother to the maintenance court, he can't use the maintenance court as a mechanism to get maintenance for himself, to care for himself. The maintenance must go to the child. That's something else. Personal maintenance, alimony, that's a different thing that applies after the parties maybe got divorced. But remember that. So, in determining the maintenance amount, what does the child cost? And what are the parents' contribution? So let's work out towards that contribution. I mean, let's say the father earns, I'm using a round figure, 10,000 rand per month, and the mother earns 5,000 rand per month. What is the ratio that applies? Does the father pay 2/3 and the mother 1/3? How does it work?
So basically, a maintenance application is a financial inquiry. I wouldn't say there's a ratio or a standard to say one party must pay so much percent of the child expenses and the other another percent. It basically comes down to what their income, the adults now, the parents, what their income and expenses look like. Obviously, when we get to court and we look at the other party's expenses, we will look at what is unnecessary or luxury expenses, and we'll just rather focus on the essential needs of that adult to work out how much is he or she left with at the end of the month to be able to be allocated towards maintenance needs of the child. So there's no hard and fast rule, there's no ratio. It really depends on the financials of each party and their circumstances.
Yes, and people contact me, somebody will send me an email and ask me, advocate, how much maintenance does a father pay for a 10-year-old child? That will ask me the question. I cannot answer that question. Firstly, as Nicole mentioned, I need to know what the child costs. I need to know what the mother earns and the father earns. And maybe with that three items, I can work out more or less what the parent should pay. But there's no standard. One child of 10 years old might require certain medical expenditure, certain educational expenditure, where another child 10 years old might live in an area where schooling is free, medical expenditures are free, or the child doesn't become ill. So the circumstances obviously vary. So that's very important to note. Nicole, we have had some type of guideline we were hoping to work from. Introduction, obligation to pay child maintenance, we dealt with that child maintenance application form. Maintenance order, the first one. Now I would like to change the maintenance order, variation of the maintenance order. How does that work? Is it possible?
So it is possible for either parent, whether you're the one paying maintenance or the one receiving maintenance. So you would bring a variation application for the maintenance order. You either, depending on which party it is, you either asking the court for an increase in the maintenance sum or decrease in the maintenance sum because circumstances have changed for the parties or for the child. A common one is that expenses increase every year. School fees go up every year, food goes up every year, or the child just consumes more or has more special needs, for example. So you would bring an application basically to change it, whether it's increase or decrease.
Yeah, and usually it will be the scenario whereby the child maybe moves from kindergarten daycare to primary school, and then maybe from primary school to high school, and from high school to tertiary. So there are those milestones which a child will go through. But at the same time, as Nicole mentioned, if a party cannot afford the maintenance, not paying nothing, but let's say you used to earn X amount of money and now you got laid off or you're earning less, you can on that basis apply for a reduction in child maintenance. Then we have the next scenario, the last scenario, setting aside the maintenance order. Now, is the maintenance order there indefinitely? So if the court made a maintenance order, the father should pay 1,000 in maintenance. Does he have to pay that till the child, is no longer there?
What I can say on that is basically the understanding that most people have is that you would maintain your child until he or she is 18 or becomes self-supporting, whichever occurs last, which is normally until the child's self-supporting, because they might go to varsity or university and they can't support themselves yet. However, which means after they turn 18 and even when they're early 20s, they would maybe be studying and they still need the support of both of their parents. So a lot of parents think that once their child turns 18, I'm done, I can stop paying the maintenance, but it's not. That is actually not the case. You would actually need to bring an application to set aside the maintenance order, and you need to show the court that your obligation to maintain this child or your child, whether he's over 18 or not, you have to give good reasons why the maintenance order should be set aside.
Yes, and it's not that simple. You cannot just come to court and say, I do not want to pay more maintenance, or I feel that the child requires this maintenance. You have to prove it. You have to convince the court that, under these circumstances, I have been paying some amount of maintenance. However, where I'm standing now, I think it's unfair because the child is now maybe have a part-time job, or the child stopped studying, or the child is doing something else, or circumstances has changed for you. You must probably remarried and have another child to look after. So things have changed. But you cannot just say, I feel that I should be paying less. The feeling part. Many people say, I feel, and that doesn't work very well in practice. Nicole, so now we've dealt with the three issues. Sorry, you apply for child maintenance, you apply to have it varied, and you apply to have it set aside. That's what we've done. Let's say, for argument's sake, somebody does not comply with the maintenance order. What happens then?
So you can approach the court again and you can lay a complaint, and you can also there's various means to enforce a court order or maintenance order. You can attach the assets, you could even attach the pension fund for arrears or future maintenance. So you have to ultimately go back to the court to say the person stopped paying maintenance, and then they will give you your recourse, whether it's issuing a warrant for the property so that you can pay the arrears, or it is for future maintenance. You can attach the pension fund or attach the assets so it can be sold and you can get the money to pay for future maintenance. And you also can lay a complaint, which is technically, it's a criminal complaint. It's now a criminal offense to not comply with an order, and a maintenance order particularly. So there are avenues to enforce an order.
And so the take home is it's a criminal offense not to pay your child maintenance. And there has been some recent, not too recent, a few 6 years ago, whereby people can be blacklisted if you don't pay your child maintenance. And they'll find you. They can go to Vodacom and to Cell C and MTN to find out exactly what's happening there. They can do credit checks on you. They can obtain your bank statements and so on. So not paying your child maintenance, it doesn't really help much. You have to pay it. And the order doesn't go away. You'll always owe that money. Okay, so Nicole, we dealt now with issue concerning non-compliance with the maintenance order. But let's say, for argument's sake, I went to the maintenance court. I got my order. The father, in my scenario, the father must pay and he cannot afford to pay. He cannot get a job. Can I go to his mother, his sister, his father? Is there other people I can claim maintenance from?
So if the father is unable to meet his obligation to pay for his minor child, the maintenance obligation, then you would look to the grandparents. For this instance, let's assume it's the paternal grandparents. You would look to them if they are able to pay towards the maintenance needs of the child. If that is not possible, which doesn't happen that much, but you can always look then to the paternal siblings of the party to satisfy the maintenance for the child.
Yeah, and it's very embarrassing for the parent who's supposed to pay maintenance to say, now my mother or my father who are retired, who are old, they are now obliged to support the grandchild because me as a parent cannot maintain my child. Obviously, there are sometimes legitimate reasons, but obviously there are also sometimes there are not legitimate reasons. Now I've made my maintenance application, I lost. I went to the maintenance court. The maintenance court said no, the father or the mother should only pay X amount of money. It's hardly enough, and I believe the parent can pay much more. Do I have any other recourse, or do I just leave it there?
So if you are not happy with the maintenance order and you feel that things weren't taken into account, or the court didn't apply its mind to the facts, basically you can appeal the maintenance order. That would require you to go to the higher court, which would be the High Court. You would appeal in the High Court, and they basically will decide whether the decision of the maintenance court was correct. If it wasn't correct, then they either would they either would refer it back to the maintenance court to look at it properly, or the appeal court will then decide this is the maintenance that the one party needs to actually pay based on the facts and the financials of that was presented to the magistrate's court.
And I find it very sad that if the magistrate or the maintenance officer messed up in the maintenance matter in the maintenance court, now you have to spend so much money and resources in a higher court in order for you to review the magistrate court's decision or the maintenance court decision. And it's very sad because the money actually goes to the minor child. Nicole, we touched on it yesterday regarding care and contact and maintenance. If I pay more maintenance, can I have more contact with my child?
No, not necessarily. Maintenance and care and contact is basically two separate things. Whether you pay maintenance or not, or how much you pay, or how little you pay, doesn't mean that the other party can prevent you or give you more contact just because you're paying more or paying less or not paying at all. Care and contact is based on many other factors, like we said yesterday. Maintenance is only one factor in that assessment. So ultimately, if the one care and contact, you either agree between the two parties whether to give more contact or needing to give less contact, you do need to go to court. But maintenance, basically, it's a separate matter. It's dealt with by a separate court. It has different requirements, different arguments. So yeah, no, my answer would be no.
It's like you can't go to a traffic court to get divorced. It's two separate courts, two separate issues. So we dealt with the maintenance court system. Many people, when they get divorced, there's also maintenance orders being made. So am I right? And of course, at this point, divorce court, they can deal with maintenance as well.
Yes, they can. So if you have a maintenance order within your divorce order, that is technically your maintenance order. So if the other party decides to not pay maintenance anymore, you can go to the maintenance court and say, here's my divorce order, it has maintenance provisions in it, he's not complying with the maintenance section or provision, which technically is a maintenance order. So you'll just bring your divorce order to the maintenance court if you have any issues.
Yeah, the general procedure would be if the parties are not married to each other, they're not divorcing, they'll go to the maintenance court from the word go. If parties are married to each other, they will generally go to the divorce court, get divorced, and the divorce court will make a maintenance order. It is also possible for parents that are involved in a care and contact dispute, they were not married to each other, and let's say, for example, you go to the High Court and you deal with the issue of maintenance as well in the care and contact matter. The High Court can also incorporate a maintenance order in the care and contact provisions, like in a parenting plan with a maintenance order. You've experienced that?
Yes, when we do draft parenting plans or divorce settlements, we tend to incorporate a maintenance provision so that it is dealt with. If for whatever reason parties can't agree and we can't put it in those parenting plan or divorce settlement, then we would at least refer to, we would say in the drafting that the issue of maintenance will be referred to the maintenance court by either party. So that means any party then after or any time can go to the maintenance court and make an application for a first maintenance order or increase or decrease.
And regarding the maintenance courts, does it cost any money to go to the maintenance courts?
No, so maintenance, there's no costs unless obviously you are appointing an attorney or advocate to help you, then there will be legal fees. However, some parties are so familiar with the maintenance court that they tend to be able to know exactly what to do and when to do it. But generally, most people are pretty lost when they get there, and some clerks or maintenance officers don't really offer that much help, so they need to see an attorney. But other than that, you are welcome to approach the maintenance court by yourself, and you will not be charged any fees.
Yeah. So the maintenance court and, for example, the domestic violence court and the children's courts, even the high court, there's no fees involved. The only fees involved basically would be lawyers' fees. That's what it comes to. We're ending off shortly. Nicole, any final words regarding child maintenance complainants? Any final words of advice you have for them? If somebody, the father or the mother is not paying child maintenance, what advice do you have for them?
My advice would be, don't wait and think that the promises of the other party to say, oh, I will pay this, and then they don't do it, because you are just delaying um, the process anyway. And also, when you do fill out a maintenance application, you would need to fill it out as comprehensively as possible for the minor child's actual maintenance needs, not what you think they should be getting. It's based on actual maintenance needs. And also, when you fill out the form, you need to make sure that you are able to show the court, provide evidence or proof that this is what my child costs me every month. A lot of people put in, you would see in the pro forma maintenance form, there is a category, for example, newspaper or books or pet expenses. So you can't be filling in those fields if you don't have a pet but would like a pet for your child in the future. It's based on actual current maintenance needs of your child.
Yeah, so I'll go on the form quickly. So you'll see a lot of things at the bottom, and I think these forms, yeah, like books and newspapers, periodicals. You might not be purchasing that anymore because you do it online. Bicycles and things like that. Some people do not have it, but they fill it in any event. This form is very old. Like you can see over here, Mnet. I think Mnet is might be relevant now, but I think people are now using other forms of
Netflix.
Netflix, yes,
Yes.
and those forms. Nicole, from my side, my advice to people dealing with child maintenance matters are be as honest as you can. Do not delay the application. The reason why I'm saying so is even if you and the other party come to an agreement to pay X amount of maintenance, and that maintenance agreement which you have is not made in order of court, should things sour between the two of you, let's say in a year's time, you're back to square one. You have to go back to the maintenance court and restart this whole procedure. So if you and the other party, you can be how civil and how amicable with each other. If you have come to an agreement that he will pay or she will pay so much money, wonderful, remain friends, go to the maintenance court, have it made an order of court, because if the other party does not comply with that, you have full recourse either to get a garnish order, get his employer or her employee to pay the maintenance, or you can attach property and so on. So that's where I come from. Nicole, we were doing it. This video will obviously be streaming later on again. If you are watching this video later on and it's not live, and you're leaving comments, both me and Nicole will go on and respond to your comments. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you online again soon.